Welcome everyone to our first foam roller class. This will be a short class, about 25 minutes, just taking you through some of the wonderful things you can do on the foam roller. One of the things I love about the foam roller is the ability to deal with imbalances, and I'm someone with scoliosis, so I'm always looking for new and interesting ways to address my tendency to be a little off side to side, and the foam roller is really helpful for that. Um, but even for so many people without that particular issue of scoliosis, we tend to have one side that works a little more, is a little more tense, um, or just holds us together a little better than the other side. And the foam roller is really good at working at the level of the nervous system to help reorganize you um, and get you working uh, kind of messing with habitual patterns and get you working in a more organized way. It can be very challenging. And one thing to remember on the foam roller is we're going for a sense of ease and balance so that we contact the nervous system and not a gripping, tight, held together way of creating balance. Um, that's not what makes the foam roller so useful. What's useful about the foam roller is letting yourself settle into a little bit of crookedness and letting your nervous system reorganize because of the feedback from the roller. So let's get started. We're going to start with it long ways. You're going to set up pretty almost uncomfortably close to the edge of the roller. Um, and you won't feel like that when you lie back, but if you start sitting in that place, then that's helpful. And then set your feet up so you can see that they're both in the same line, they're both pointing forward, they're in line with your hips. You're going to try to leave them there as you start to move backwards. So you're going to roll back just a little bit to where your hands are on the floor, your fingers are pointing forward, but you're not up on your tailbone uncomfortably. You're back behind your tailbone and you're more in the back of the pelvis. If this is uncomfortable for your shoulders, you could put your hands out to the side or you could put them a little wider. Either one would be fine. And almost like you're going to do a tricep push up, you're going to roll back slightly and the elbows are going to reach back until you feel more of the back of your pelvis on the roller. And then you're going to push into your hands to roll forward again. So we're just starting to loosen up your spine and loosen up your hips. Your arms are providing a good deal of balance and support. And then you're teaching your spine a little bit where center is. Just kind of opening up the back of the pelvis and the lower back and the hips. And I just went down a little farther that time. You might find you can do that. At a certain point when you roll back, you're going to feel like your shoulders stop you or your hands stop you. So just very surreptitiously start to walk your hands maybe a little bit sideways so that you can smoothly make your way down a little lower. And then again, as you come up, like walk your hands in a little bit. So play with that a little bit. How low can you go without a thud? You want to find that place. Take your time. Arrange yourself as you need to. You might not be going as low as I'm going. That's fine. You don't have to. But find your edge. And then the next time you go down, we're going to go all the way down and stay there. So organizing, smoothly moving your hands around a little bit. Seeing if you can feel a real flow in your spine until you make it all the way onto the roller and you can feel head supported by the roller and pelvis supported by the roller. And I don't feel enough of my head on the roller, so I'm going to slide myself down a little bit. That feels better. I can feel my whole pelvis on the roller. I can feel my head really supported on the roller as well. And if you notice, I haven't moved my feet the whole time. So I know they're still in line with each other. I know the toes are still pointing forward. And that's what I want. That's going to help me figure out where a balanced place is. And then I'm going to start a little bit of sway side to side. Now, a lot of times when you get on the roller, the first instinct is to try and not sway side to side. So we're just going to face that head on. Push a little bit with one foot, feel how your weight drifts over to the other side, and then push a little bit with the other foot. It's a controlled sway, wobble. How far can you go before it feels like you grip, maybe in your hips or your shoulders? And that's the main thing we're looking at. How do you regain control when you start to lose it? So as you get farther and farther off to one side, is it your right hip that grips? Is it your lower back that grips? Is it your chest that grips? Or some combination? Maybe it's your abdominals. Wouldn't that be great if you were like, oh, I just feel my obliques come on? That would be a pretty useful way to maintain your balance. Your feet also, if you can feel a little bit of support from your foot, helps stop you. And then maybe you don't have such a gripping feeling in those other places. And then settle into center. And center might not be perfectly straight, but it's balanced. So if you feel, it's a little asymmetrical, that's not always bad, as long as it feels like a general sense of even weight on both sides and both feet. And then you're going to be here for a little bit of time. We're going to spend some time trying to relax into this feeling of stability. So we started with a feeling of instability. We're going to see if we can drop into a feeling of stability for a moment. So using imagery and a little bit sensation, start at your feet and think right foot, left foot, both grounded, not an efforted pushing into the floor, but grounded, relaxed into the floor, spreading out. And one way I know the difference between grounded and pushing is when I check in at my hips. That grounding my feet lets my hips relax. Pushing with a lot of effort into my feet makes my hips tighten up. And there's a continuum. I might feel like I need to push a little. As long as I keep it pretty easy, pretty fluid in my hips, that's okay. And then thinking about the pelvis, imagine your pelvis is centered, that the center of your pelvis bisects the roller. If you know the bone, the sacrum, which is in the center back of the pelvis, you could think about your sacrum being very centered and dropping straight down through the roller. And then thinking about your rib cage and the spine part of your rib cage and how that centers and could bisect the roller, dropping straight down into the roller. And hopefully as that happens, your shoulders, your shoulder blades could relax, your chest could relax. You might feel your arms and your hands a little heavier. And then the head, the back of the head, dropping straight down into the roller so that your neck relaxes, your jaw relaxes. And then imagining an energetic center line that goes through the center of your head, through the center of your rib cage, through the center of your waist and pelvis, and that's what's balanced right over the roller. And instead of thinking about which muscles are tightening or holding you, you're going to work with that image. Imagery is great for the nervous system. So because we're trying to contact the nervous system and let the nervous system contact the muscles, then imagery is really useful. So we have this center line image that's right over the roller. And then that's it. You stay with that image. We start a little movement. We're going to start with your right arm. Reaches off the floor and up to the ceiling. And then it goes back down to the floor. Your left arm does the same thing. Inhale, left arm, up to the ceiling. Left arm, down to the floor. Alternate that. Inhale to float up. Exhale to come down. And I am moving intentionally slowly here. And sometimes I say, it doesn't matter, move a little faster. But today, on the roller, play with a slightly slower rhythm. And pay attention to the moment your body wants to wobble. We often skip over that part of the movement. And the moment your body wants to do a little wobble, that's actually the moment we want to interact with. That's the moment we want to explore. What's happening right at that moment? Maybe it's about halfway up. Your pelvis wants to wiggle a little or your hips want to grab. Slow down a little bit. See if you can keep your centered image, your centered feeling, your ease in your breath when you experience that moment. So I've got my left arm up to the ceiling now. I'm going to leave it there and bring my right arm up. And then same thing, here I am. I'm going to find center again. Maybe I get a little wobbly once both arms are up because I've changed the circumstances a little bit. So I'm going to hang out. I'm going to find my center line image. Feel both feet grounded. And then take your palms together, your hands together. So now my hands are centered right over my chest. Again, just a little bit different, little subtly different way to balance with the hands centered over the chest. And so your hands are together, your palms are together. It's kind of like a prayer pose. Reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling a little more so you feel your shoulder blades wide on your back and connected to your rib cage. They're not sinking down towards the floor. So you have just a little bit of effort in your upper back, the tiniest bit, to hold your shoulder blades in place and in line with the rest of your spine. Now I'm going to leave my left hand exactly where it is in that center line spot. I'm going to try to keep my knees exactly where they are. And then I'm going to start opening my right hand straight out to the side. And you might think, well, that's not a big deal. But it's amazing. As my right arm goes to the side, my left hand wants to move, my right knee wants to move, my pelvis wants to shift a little bit. You might notice some of those same things. Whenever I hit the end of what feels like a useful exploration, I'm going to bring my hands back together. So I'm going towards the side, but I'm not going all the way down. I'm slowly feeling, when does my pelvis want to counterbalance? When do my hips want to move? When does my right hand want to move? When do my knees want to move? I'm going to try to prevent all those things. I just keep my torso steady, my center line image, and only my hand moves. So Where's that range? I'm going to play with that a little bit, stabilizing everything but my right arm moving. I almost drop into a little bit of meditation as I watch my hand move really slowly, and at the same time stay really aware of what's going on at a subtle level in my body. It's pretty cool. And then both hands back in prayer pose in the center whenever you get there. Split them apart to shoulder distance. Place them back down on the floor in line with your shoulders. And I have my hands on the floor, but I don't have my elbows on the floor. So a little bit of support. My shoulder blades aren't sinking down, they're coming up slightly, so they're in line with my spine. My hands have a little bit of grounded feeling in the floor, just like I did with my feet earlier. Ground the hands, don't grip and push. Find the grounded feeling. Now we're going to switch to the feet. We're going to start really slowly with the feet too. Just your right heel coming up. And what very subtle shifts do you notice when your right heel comes up? If you go really quickly, you might not notice any. But if you move just a little slowly, you might feel like, oh, my left heel came about halfway up and a tiny little wobble happened in my pelvis. You don't have to prevent the wobble, but if you pay attention to it and think about your center line, then your body starts to figure out how to organize differently. And the next time your right heel comes up, then maybe there's less of a wobble. Lowering it down. So I'm alternating a heel coming up, a heel going down, side to side. And because I have my elbows off the floor, my shoulder blades connected to my rib cage, I have to work a little bit in my upper abdominals. We're doing all these little movements that actually take a lot of deep work. So you might find this one heel at a time exploration interesting and you want to stay there. You might think, I'm ready to go a little farther. And you could take the heel off and then take the whole leg off into a knee fold. Knee over hip, but still very bent, heel towards your bottom. And then as you lower your foot back down, try to put it right back in the same place. You might not know exactly where that is, but you're going to imagine it goes right back into that same footprint. Nice center line image. Torso stays steady as the left leg comes up. And then what happens with all of that? Alternating side to side. And you may have done this kind of work before and gone a little faster. But probably if you went a little faster, you had a little more gripping, maybe in your chest or your back or your hips. And probably you were a little less consistent about staying steady on the roller. So not that it's bad to go quickly, but it's very different. If you keep it a little slow, you keep exploring, you stop before you have a big jolt off to one side. You keep your center line image. You keep breathing. I've got my right leg up. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take my left arm up to the ceiling. And a couple breaths holding this position. What's this like? My upper back was grabbing a little bit. I just let that go. I found my left foot a little more grounded. I'm going to take everything back to the floor. And then just the left leg first. And you might still be doing just the left heel. That would be just fine. Or the whole left leg off. Hold the left leg up there and then add the right arm to it. And then hold both of them there. This time my lower back was gripping. So then I let that go a little. And there's not one thing you might feel. I'm just telling you what I felt. You might feel something a little different. And it's just about observing. Bringing that down. So we're going to take that a little more fluidly now. Left arm and right leg come up at the same time. Exhale, everything comes back right where it was a moment ago. Opposite. Inhale, you get to float up. Exhale, you float down. This approach also really good for helping your psoas release. So hard to get to that psoas muscle if you know that muscle. This kind of slow nervous system, exploratory way of moving. It's a really good way to contact psoas imbalance and just kind of overall psoas tension. Let's leave both feet and hands on the floor next time you get there. And take both arms up towards the ceiling again. So we're going to practice bringing the head off at this point. What's that like? So easy pelvis, grounded feet, arms float down as the head floats up, and I'm in that 100 position without lifting the pelvis. Both feet still really grounded. You could put a hand behind your head. If that's how you normally do the 100, you've still got that option here. Lowering back down, arms up to the ceiling. And take that again. Okay, next time we're going to do it. We're going to play with the 100 a little bit. And I'm going to add in some leg variations as we go that you can try or you can ignore, up to you. So we're going to exhale and come up. And then we start the little pumps. Inhale 5. Exhale 5. You could still think of that nice center line image right down the center of the roller, even though your head's off. And this is our 4th one, inhaling and exhaling. So if you want, right leg comes off on your next inhale. Right foot goes down on the exhale, or just the heel. Left leg on the inhale. Lower down on the exhale. A lot harder than you might imagine. So maybe you just do the heel up on the inhale and lower on the exhale. Or maybe you just keep both feet down. And inhaling. And then lower everything down and hands to the floor and head relaxed here. So let's do a little interlude off the roller. I'm going to stretch my right leg straight out, either leg straight out, and then roll towards that side to come off the roller Slide your roller out and then take a moment on the floor. Often this is like a really cool feeling and also a really weird feeling where suddenly you feel your side body. Had so much feedback on your center line. Now suddenly it's like, ooh, I'm three-dimensional. Sometimes it feels like the floor is coming up around you. So anyway, that's kind of cool. You can just hang out here for a moment. And then we're just going to try one exercise, a really good balancing exercise off the roller and see what it's like now after you've had all that feedback. So we're going to try the single leg circles. Taking your left leg straight out, taking your right leg up towards the ceiling. And then that same center line idea, leaving everything really organized in your torso. Take a little circle around with your right leg, reaching across and over to the left, around and back up to center. Inhale to start, exhale around and up. And then take the other direction of that. Inhale, a little bit open, exhale around and up. Kind of like when you were taking that little side movement with your hands earlier, when your hands were in prayer pose above you, but you kept your torso steady. Now your leg is doing that, just opening a little and then circling. And then bend your knee and place your right leg down. I'm going to bring the left leg up. Same thing. Across to the right, exhale, open and back to center. Strong center line feeling keeps the torso steady without gripping. And then in reverse. And then bending your knee and stretch your left leg down. And take a moment with both legs down. Letting your body really relax here. Settle into the floor. And just being very aware of your back body. For me, it feels so much more alive now. It doesn't seem like I did very much, and yet my experience when I started versus when I finished, my body feels very different, very grounded. And then bend your knees. You can bring both knees into your chest. And then however you like, roll up to sitting. So that is our foam roller introduction. Not necessarily easy things to do, and certainly for someone advanced, there's a lot to explore in that movement, especially the somewhat meditative aspects of it, of really tuning in and very deeply connecting to how your body feels. And the roller is so great for that all the time. So I hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon.